Good evening. You're watching the main news on HKIBC. I'm Sarah Wong. Our top stories tonight. Shanghai celebrates the lifting of a 2-month COVID lockdown. In Hong Kong, new COVID infections jumped to a 5-week high with 505 cases. And Hong Kong's revenue from taxes climbs to a record. Millions of people in Shanghai flocked to the streets and workers returned to their offices as China's largest city emerged from a 2-month lockdown. The financial hub managed to contain its COVID outbreak, but at a high human and economic cost. The moment of liberation was especially precious after 2 months of isolation, division, and in some cases, desperation. Residents streamed out of their once barricaded neighborhoods as Shanghai took a giant leap towards normality. Before the 2-month lockdown was officially lifted, some held celebrations on the streets. Barriers came down around residential blocks as dawn broke over the metropolitan of 25 million people. Noise and vehicles again filled the thoroughfares, bringing the mainland financial hub back to life. While most of residents were enthralled to see Shanghai reopen, others were worried that the draconian curbs could return should there be another outbreak. The sense of wariness was seen in the subway, where cautious passengers stayed some distance from each other. The authorities thanked residents for their sacrifice that helped bring China's most severe COVID outbreak under control. The municipal government vowed to repair the economy and pushed for a full resumption of activities. Home to the world's third-largest stock market, acclaimed multinational corporations and ports, Shanghai's lockdown strained China's economic growth and put a dampener on consumer and investment confidence. But the pain apparently paid off, as the mainland logged just 68 domestic cases yesterday, the first time since March that the daily toll dipped below 100. China is keeping the costly dynamic zero COVID strategy in place by setting up tens of thousands of lab testing booths in major cities. Hong Kong's daily COVID infections have jumped to a 5-week high with over 500 new cases reported today. Health officials suspect that a number of false positive cases from rapid antigen tests might have contributed to the increase. Joanna Ho reports.
Hong Kong logged 505 new COVID infections today, after cases hovered around 200 to 300 for more than 5 weeks. Health officials said the jump could have been triggered by the launch of the third phase of the vaccine pass scheme. Center for Health Protection Controller Edwin Choi said the number of false positive cases rose significantly recently. He believes that previously infected people who didn't report to the center submitted false or outdated positive test results recently in a bid to get a recovery QR code so they can be exempted from the vaccine pass requirement. Choi warned these people could be penalized. He dismissed worries about the surge in cases, saying it's normal as more compulsory testing notices have been issued as more clusters emerged. 17 more infections have been linked to the Iron Berries bar cluster, taking the tally to 49. The central nightclub cluster grew to 31, with an additional 4 cases. Officials also suspect a vertical transmission in Li Wing building in To Kwa Wan after infections were detected in another 3 units. A 63-year-old woman who lives in the building and works as a cleaner in the Convention and Exhibition Center tested positive earlier. Joanna Ho, HKIBC.
The University of Hong Kong is set to conduct a trial on a vaccine that targets the Omicron COVID variant. The vaccine could be available near the end of the year if the experiment is successful. Isaac Lee reports.
Government health advisor Ivan Hong has urged people not to worry, although Hong Kong continues to record new COVID infections daily. The number of new cases recently have been in the low triple digits. Speaking on the radio program, he said new COVID transmission chains still exist in the community. Hong added that rapid antigen tests may generate false positive results. He suggested that those who test positive by this method take a PCR test in a community center. Meanwhile, Sinopharm has developed a new generation of vaccines aimed at the Omicron variant. Before it can be officially launched, the University of Hong Kong is recruiting 1,800 volunteers who will each be administered 2 doses during a trial run. Hong, who is leading the experiment, expects the new jab to be made available to the public by the end of this year. Meanwhile, a Chinese university study found that 3 doses of the mRNA vaccine are much more effective in protecting the elderly and those with weak immunity. A third mRNA jab could also prevent infection, even if a person received another type of vaccine previously. Isaac Lee, HKIBC.
A former senior police officer has been appointed as the first head of the Civil Service College. Kwok Yam-shu, who takes up the post in July, stepped down as Deputy Police Commissioner in April after 31 years in the force. Civil Service Minister Patrick Nip said Kwok, who is 57, has leadership and management skills. The Civil Service College in North Point was established in December and offers various training programs for government officers. Hong Kong's tax revenue has hit a record despite the pandemic. The biggest contributions came from profit tax and stamp duty. Isaac Lee has more.
The government collected a record $378.5 billion in taxes in the past financial year, up 14% from the previous year. Revenue from profits tax surged 23% to $167.3 billion. But salaries tax rose only by 1% to $75.5 billion. Stamp duty jumped 12% to $99.6 billion, as financial markets remained active even during the COVID pandemic. The Inland Revenue Department said the health crisis affected tax collection in 2020 because many companies asked to defer payment of the professional tax. But the situation improved last year.
After the pandemic gradually stabilized, and for example, during the early part or the certain part of the year 2021, the revenue collection became better than the year before, and in the latest year 21-22, we actually collected more than the previous year.
The tax department added that most sectors earned less in the past 2 or 3 years, but the financial industry continued to record growth. With the situation returning to normal, tax revenue in the coming year is expected to increase by 3%. Isaac Lee, HKIBC.
A lawmaker has asked the government to extend the search for a white knight to rescue the Jumbo floating restaurant. The former tourist hotspot is set to leave the city this month, but suffered another setback last night. Joanna Ho has more.
The 30-meter-long boat, which served as the kitchen of the Jumbo floating restaurant, listed in Aberdeen Harbour late last night. A security guard alerted police after the vessel leaned almost 90 degrees to one side. There were no injuries and workers used a pump to drain the water. Inspectors removed some oil stains this morning, while firefighters fastened the vessel. The incident happened several hours after Chief Executive Carrie Lam said the government will not inject money to save the iconic restaurant. The former tourist attraction eatery is expected to leave Hong Kong this month after more than 4 decades because of financial problems. No one has expressed an interest to take it over because of cost concerns. The restaurant was supposed to be donated to Ocean Park as a part of a plan to invigorate the south of Hong Kong Island, but the theme park could not find a third-party operator to run the business. Tourism sector lawmaker Yiu Pak Leung urged the government to consider collaborating with the Jockey Club to revive the restaurant. However, business sector legislator Jeffrey Lam said operational and financial details have to be ironed out before any group is asked to help. Joanna Ho, HKIBC.
Overseas, heartbroken families in the U.S. city of Uvalde have started to bury 19 children shot dead alongside 2 teachers in the primary school last week. The loved ones of 10-year-old Emery Jo Garza carried her casket out of a church. She was then laid to rest in the local cemetery in the small Texan town, still reeling in grief and anger. As the funerals got underway, a police commander blamed for the delay in responding to the gun rampage was sworn in as a city councilor. Pete Arredondo had been accused of making a wrong decision by not confronting the teenage gunman earlier. South Korean boy band BTS took the stage at the White House to speak their mind on anti-Asian hate crimes in the United States. The world's best-selling K-pop stars joined White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre in a briefing room. Earlier, they met President Joe Biden at the Oval Office to discuss the issue. They also shared their own discriminatory encounters. The unconventional visit came at the end of the month that celebrates the heritage of Asian Americans, Native Hawaiians, and Pacific Islanders. Retail sales in Hong Kong picked up again in April after declining in the previous 2 months. Following a nearly 14% drop in March, sales surged 11.7% from April last year to $30 billion. Purchases improved after the government handed out the first half of its $10,000 consumption vouchers. Sentiment was also boosted by the easing of COVID restrictions, which enabled more businesses to reopen and operate longer hours. Gaming revenue in Macau rose last month, but remained well below the takings in May last year. Official figures show that punters spent $410 million in the gambling hub, a 68% plunge from a year ago. But the amount was up 25% from April. Macau was deprived of a robust source of revenue when the mainland restricted travel because of COVID. A crackdown on cross-border gambling also hurt the industry. Casino stocks in Hong Kong closed slightly lower today. Now let's take a look at the markets. The Hang Seng Index closed down 120 points. Top 10 active stocks: Tencent down $2, Meituan down $4.50, and Kuaishou Technology up $1.30. JD.com down $1.80, BYD Company up $2.60, and Hong Kong exchanges up $4.80. Forex trading against Hong Kong dollar: Euro trading at 8.40, British pound at 9.87, Canadian dollar at 6.21. Over to the UK market, FTSE 100 is down 10 points. Oil prices have risen after the European Union agreed to cut imports from Russia by 90% by the end of the year. The decision is not expected to hit Moscow in the pocket in the short term.
So far, Russia has kind of found the easy markets, if you like. India has been a willing buyer. China has certainly been keen to buy more oil because both countries are getting big discounts on global market prices. It will be more difficult for Russia to find more customers for the remainder of the oil that Europe plans to cut by now and the end of the year.
The EU is slashing Russian fuel imports to punish Moscow for invading Ukraine. But analysts warn that the move could backfire, as Europeans who already face higher food prices might struggle to pay for costlier fuel in the coming winter. That's our main news for Wednesday night. Join us for more news at 11. I'm Sarah Wong. Thanks for watching. Stay safe and take care.